Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're going to really get into something fascinating. It comes from a source you shared, actually Discourse from the Buddha.
Right.
It's an English translation of Buddha's discourses,
Yeah, translated by Venerable Kiribathgoda Gnanananda Thero.
and it tackles something we all know, sorrow. But it puts forward this, well, pretty stark idea. Sorrow arises from affection.
Mm-hmm. It's a strong statement. And the setting for this teaching is the Jeddah Grove Monastery in Savatthi.
Okay.
What makes it hit home, I think, is that it starts with a very, very human situation. There's this householder, and he's just completely broken by grief.
Yeah, not abstract at all.
Not at all. He's lost his only son, who he clearly adored,
Right.
and the text paints this picture of just utter devastation.
It sounds incredibly raw. Like we're talking about someone not just sad, but completely consumed by it.
Exactly. He's neglecting everything, not eating, just keeps going back to the cremation ground, crying out, my only son, where are you? It's intense.
You can almost hear it. So this deep dive, I suppose, is really asking, does that deep love, that affection, inevitably set us up for this kind of pain?
That's the core question, yeah. And it's in this state, this deep grief, that he runs into the Buddha.
And the Buddha notices straight away.
Immediately. Sees the man isn't himself, that something's profoundly wrong, that shift in his whole being.
And the man, he doesn't hold back.
No, he pours it all out, talks about how much he loved his son, the unbearable pain now that he's gone, repeats those cries of loss. It's really moving.
A real testament to that bond and the agony when it breaks.
Absolutely. And it's right after hearing all this intense grief, that the Buddha makes his statement.
It's a big one.
The big one. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise from what is dear, originate from what is liked.
Wow. Okay. And how does the father react to that? I mean, in the midst of his pain?
Predictably, perhaps, he completely rejects it, strongly disagrees.
I can imagine. Like, what are you talking about? My love for him brought joy.
Precisely that. He argues affection brings happiness, joy, not the sorrow. He just can't square the Buddha's words with his own feelings, his own love.
So he just leaves.
Yep.
Walks away unconvinced. It really shows how counterintuitive the Buddha's point feels, doesn't it? Our gut reaction is,
Not that the love itself contains the seed of the sorrow.
exactly, that's the distinction the Buddha's making, and the householder isn't ready to hear it, which is understandable. So what happens next? Does he just go home?
Well, interestingly, no. He ends up talking to a group of gamblers.
Gamblers, that's unexpected.
Right, and he tells them about his conversation with the Buddha, about this idea that affection causes sorrow.
In the gambler.
They totally agree with the householder. They're like, yeah, man, affection brings joy.
So the grieving father finds validation with gamblers.
Yeah.
It's almost darkly funny.
It is, in a way. It sort of underlines how common the householder's perspective is, maybe. That love is purely a source of happiness.
But the story spreads,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't just stay there.
No, word gets around. This whole exchange, the grieving father, the Buddhist statement, the gamblers, and it eventually reaches the palace. King Pasenadi of Kosala hears about it.
Okay, so now royalty is involved? What does the king make of it?
He tells Queen Malika about it, heard what the Buddha said, that sorrow comes from affection. And maybe there's a bit of skepticism in his voice, like, really?
A bit mocking, perhaps?
Possibly. But Queen Malika's reaction is completely different.
How so?
She just accepts it immediately, flat out says, well, if the Blessed One said it, it must be so. Total faith.
Wow. Unwavering. That must have surprised the king.
It seems to have needled him a bit, yeah. He kind of remarks on her blind faith. But Malika doesn't argue. She's smarter than that.
What does she do?
She decides to investigate properly. She sends a trusted Brahmin, Nalijanga, directly to the Buddha.
To get it straight from the source.
Exactly. Her instructions are clear. Check if the Buddha is well, and then ask him point blank, did you actually say that sorrow originates from affection? From what is liked?
So off goes Nalijanga.
Yes. He finds the Buddha, pays respects, asks the question.
And the Buddha's answer.
Is crystal clear. That is so, Brahmin, that is so. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise from what is dear, originate from what is liked. Direct confirmation.
No ambiguity there.
None. But then the Buddha does something really important. He doesn't just state the principle, he illustrates it.
With examples.
Yes, with real-life examples from right there in Savatthi, stories people would likely know. He makes it concrete.
Ah, okay, so like what?
He talks about a woman whose mother died. She became, deranged, totally consumed by grief, wandering around asking people if they'd seen her mother.
Oh, wow. That's vivid.
Very. And he gives more examples like that. Women losing their fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, husbands, each time the same outcome. Overwhelming grief, sometimes madness, stemming directly from the loss of someone dear.
So it's showing a pattern. The depth of affection is linked to the potential depth of the sorrow.
That's exactly it. And then there's this particularly tragic one. A woman whose family forced her apart from her husband, tried to make her marry someone else. She and her husband couldn't bear to be separated. Their affection was so strong, they made a suicide pact.
But it powerfully makes the point, doesn't it? The sorrow arose directly from their mutual affection, faced with losing it.
It really does. It highlights how clinging to what we hold dear, when faced with its impermanence or separation, is a direct path to suffering.
So Nali Janga, the Brahmin, hears all this.
And he's convinced, satisfied with the explanation, the examples. He goes back to Queen Malika and reports everything the Buddha said.
Okay, now Malika has the confirmation and the explanation. How does she handle the king now?
This is where she's really skillful. She doesn't just lecture him, she turns it back on him, makes it personal. She starts asking him questions, very direct questions about his affections. Maharaja, she asks, do you hold Princess Vajiri dear?
His daughter.
Yes. And then, do you hold Vasapakatariya dear? General Vidudapa. Myself. And even, do you hold the people of Kasi Kosala dear? Putting him on the spot about everyone he cares about. Exactly. And for each one, after he says yes, she asks the crucial follow-up. And if something were to happen to them, some change, some misfortune, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise in you?
Brilliant. She's making him connect the dots himself.
Precisely. And the king's answers are very telling. He admits it every time. Yes, he'd feel profound sorrow. He even says things like his life might not be worth living if he lost certain people. His attachments and the potential pain are undeniable to him.
So he's basically proving the Buddha's point through his own feelings.
Without realizing it at first, maybe. But Malika drives it home after each admission. She repeats the Buddha's teaching. Maharaja, concerning this, the Blessed One has said, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise from what is dear. It is concerning this that the Blessed One has spoken.
She just keeps linking his personal feelings directly back to the teaching. Gentle, but persistent.
Extremely effective.
Yeah.
Because it's not an abstract argument anymore. It's his own heart, his own potential suffering laid bare.
And what's the final impact on the king?
He's genuinely astonished, confronted with it like that, through his own affections. He gets it. He sees the wisdom in the Buddha's words.
He finally accepts it.
He does. The story ends with him expressing deep reverence for the Buddha, acknowledging the truth he initially doubted. It's quite a journey from that first skeptical conversation.
It really is. From doubt and mockery to understanding and reverence.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, the core takeaway is pretty clear, isn't it? This deep link between love, affection, what we hold dear, and the inescapable potential for sorrow.
Yeah, it's illustrated so powerfully through the householder's raw grief and then the king's gradual realization through his own attachments.
And again, it's crucial to say this isn't about saying don't love or don't feel affection.
No, not at all. It feels more like acknowledging a fundamental truth about being human and being attached to things and people that won't last forever. They're impermanent.
Exactly. It highlights the vulnerability that comes with deep caring in a world where things constantly change and pass away.
Which leads to maybe the most important part for you listening.
Right. The question becomes, thinking about your own life, your own relationships, your own attachments, have you seen this principle yourself? Does recognizing this connection maybe shift how you think about affection or how you approach loss?
It's definitely something to mull over. Perhaps understand the nature of that love and its relationship to potential sorrow a bit more deeply.
Precisely. How does this ancient wisdom resonate with your modern experience? That's the real food for thought here. It's a profound teaching, really, with a lot to unpack for our own lives.